If we all had a rink in our backyard like year round, I'd probably want to get on the ice mostly and work on my skating. But what are 3 things, if we don't have access to the ice all the time, what are 3 things we can do that would really improve our performance on the ice? Maybe if we spent like 10 minutes a day working on these 3 things, what would they be? I've got a few ideas I'm going to show you. I guess we better head back to the gym because obviously this isn't my house.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow in the stump.
Okay, so again, we're assuming that you don't have a year-round rink that's available to you in your backyard. We're going to go over these 3 drills or exercises that you can work on every single day to improve your skill as a goalie, even without having your own private hockey rink. You might be a little bit surprised because we're not going to talk about your strength or even your flexibility today. This video is about skill, as my friend Eli Wilson says, and goalie coach Eli Wilson says, it's about skill. And that's really what we're going to focus on, because some of the skills that you need on the ice, you really can practice just beautifully away from the ice, and then be building that repertoire and that reservoir of skill to take with you to help you stop pucks. It's a skill that differentiates, a good or an average goalie from a great goalie. They're just a little bit better at all those fine details than you are. I'm also going to give you a test on the 3rd skill, and I want you to let me know in the comments below whether you pass the test, or I know we're not supposed to say fail anymore, but whether you fail the test, and let me know. I promise there's no special equipment you need, or well, it won't say any special skills, because that's kind of what we're testing, isn't it? So let's get started with the first thing that we're going to work on. And even this is a big part of this is from personal experience. I was talking to Jason Van Spronson last week, how about young goalies in particular who don't play catch anymore. So we used to spend hours playing outside, throwing a football, throwing a baseball, playing 300 and up, doing all these other things as kids as we were growing up. So that really catching with a glove is pretty second nature, because not necessarily on the ice with a puck, but as kids back in the olden days, we'd done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of repetitions. So that's one of the first things that we're going to focus on, is working on that catching skill. So my rules for hand-eye coordination training, or juggling off the wall, which is what a lot of you do for hand-eye training, is that it should be mostly overhand. So a lot of times you see goalies and they're doing their juggling working underhand, but really that's not very practical. I mean, sometimes you have to squeeze one, but you're not often sort of working in an underhand fashion. So let's keep it mostly overhand. Next rule, always looking for the next level of challenge. So once you get to a skill that you can just execute it up fast and with precision and with excellence, then you're looking, okay, well, how can I make this harder? And it might be something as simple as, well, I'll close one eye, or instead of being here facing square, maybe I'm going to turn to the side a little bit and almost try to use my peripheral vision. There are a million things that you can do, but you're always looking for that next level of difficulty. I don't really, and this is different. This is for training to try to improve. If as part of your warm-up, you have a pattern that you're really good at, and it just, gets your hands and eyes going, that's totally fine. I'm not saying you should mess with that, but I mean, when we're training to try to improve that skill, we always want to be looking for the next little notch up. Ideally, we'd like it to be sort of a rising shot. So sometimes when we throw the ball off the wall and it comes back sort of looping to us, or coming down to us, it's not really specific to what you'd see. Again, the focus is trying to work on the skill of catching in all different ways. But ideally, we would get a little bit of the rising shot. So you can usually do that by hitting the ball off the wall first. So hit the wall first down near the bottom, then the puck bounces off the floor, and then it's sort of coming up towards you. And of course, this, I'm always talking about it, but wear your glove for your hand-eye training so that the ball or the puck or whatever isn't hitting here, because when you put on your goalie glove, it's It's up here. This is where your pocket is. So if you learn that, oh, I'm supposed to put my hand here to catch something, that's wrong. That's not how it is. I should put my hand here so that I can catch something that's coming there. Let me show you exactly what I mean, because this is a really important point. So I've talked about this tons of times. I'll be really, really fast. But so here's my hand. Here's my glove. When my glove is on, the middle of my hand where I would catch a ball is right about here in the glove. But and you can see from the puck marks in my glove that I've done a very good job of bouncing a lot of pucks out of the heel of my glove, because I was always practicing with a bare hand. So where I want to have my hand positioned is if a puck's coming here, boom, I want my hand, you know, what is that, like 4 inches below that, so that I'm catching it in the pocket. Because, you know, if the puck gets in the pocket, it's gonna stay there most of the time. But if it's here, then it's gonna start rattling around and popping out in all different directions. Final point on hand-eye or juggling off the wall, whatever you want to do. Can you wear your mask? Yeah, I think it's actually a really good idea to get used to seeing through your mask and get used to that feeling of having your mask on. Should you do hand-eye training if you don't have your mask and you don't have your glove? No, you can still do it. I wouldn't do it all the time without my glove, but if I'm away for a week and I want to practice it and I don't have my glove, that's totally fine. Now, puck handling is not my area of expertise, and if you've ever seen me play, you will see that clearly displayed, but it's still important to practice. And I'm not going to give you a bunch of specific puck handling drills, because again, that isn't my area of expertise either. I'm a gym rat. But you know, practice something. Get familiar having the puck on your stick. Get used to just the grip and having it there. I think there is going to be a time when being a goalie who can handle the puck really well is going to be exactly the same as being a quarterback who can run the football well. It just is an extra tool that increases your stock for any team that's looking at you. And then I think it'll keep going further to the point where, hey, if you're a goalie who can't handle the puck really well, you know, then it's like a quarterback who can only stay in their pocket. It's like, okay, well, you know, we don't need sort of that kind of a one-dimensional player. So something we'll work on. So here are my rules for puck handling. Wear your glove and blocker, because that's the hardest thing. And just the grip to me is so awkward, and getting my elbow up high and doing all that stuff. Whereas if I'm just holding it like a player, it's like, what's the big deal here? So as with most things, you know, just start with the basics. I mean, it's a little hard to do on turf here, but you know, if you can't, like, I have to be very deliberate and focused just on the basics, just on, you know, shuffling side to side. Until I can do that really well and really effectively, then I have no business adding complexity to it or trying to do sauce passes or, you know, anything like that. But once you get good at a basic pattern, sometimes it's a bit our habit to want to practice those patterns we're really good at. But once we get good at a basic pattern, then we're going to add that next layer of challenge, that level of neural complexity. You know, trying to spend your time, working on shootout goals or sauce passes before you can even just do the basics. It's, you know, like trying to work on your splits before you have a nice wide butterfly flare. It just, you know, it makes no sense at all. And if you're like, oh, butterfly flare, yes, please. I have a program for that. It's called the Butterfly Challenge. It's free. It's 14-day mobility program for goalies, gives you a wider butterfly flare. I'll put a link somewhere and you can go get it. But right now we're talking about stick handling, puck handling. I don't really care what tools you use, so you can use this little biscuit, green biscuit kind of pucky thing, or you can use the stick handling ball. It doesn't really matter to me what you use. maybe you have a favorite puck handling drill, and I'd love for you to share it down in the comments below so that we can all sort of learn and increase our repertoire of drills that way. So if you have one that you really, really like, that really, really helped you, just post a little description down in the comments below. It takes quite a bit of energy to correct your balance. So if you're a little bit off balance, you know, these are just fine corrections, but that's all muscular energy that you're using just to keep yourself upright and over your base of support. And if you're not sure, well, I don't know if I have good balance, or I don't notice myself, you know, wiggling around, which most of us don't. Here's the test for you. I told you we were going to do a little test. So you're going to stand on one foot with your hands on your hips. The knee of the leg that you're standing on will be slightly bent, and the other foot can't, you know, sort of be wrapped around or touching the leg in any way. So hands are on your hips, knee pointing straight ahead, slightly bent, and then you're going to find your balance first, but then you're going to close both your eyes. And you're going to try to hold that balance with both your eyes closed for 30 seconds and see if you can do it. You might find that you can do it on one side really, really well. On the other side, it's a bit of a disaster. So if you can't hold your balance with your eyes closed for 30 seconds on each side, then it's a skill that needs a little bit of work. So we can start with just the basic single leg balance with your eyes open. Get that for 30 seconds on each side. Single leg balance with one eye closed. Get that for 30 seconds on each side. Then we go back to single leg balance with both eyes closed. We can add in some head movements, which I really like for goalies, because, you know, you're often going to be looking one way and then having to rotate and slide the other direction. So we'll get single leg balance again, knee softly bent. I'm going to put both my thumbs right up in front of my eyes, and I'm staring right at the nail bed on my thumb as I take this thumb out to the side, and I follow my hand with my head as I go, and then I bring it back in. So make sure you're staring right at that thumb, turning your head with it as you go, and go slowly, because sometimes if you go fast, you know, you're almost just looking past it and you're not getting the same effect. So that is sort of putting some movement into your vestibular system, which also challenges your balance. Then we're going to go down to a little bit more goalie specific balance drills, getting down from balanced movement from your butterfly position. So we would start just from a single knee balance. When I'm standing on my legs, I can get input from the base of my feet. I have muscles across my toes, my ankles, my knees that can all help me fine-tune my balance. When you're in your butterfly and you're pushing across and you're sliding, and you don't really want to have to drag this skate along the ice as a training wheel so you're not losing your balance. You want to push and then be able to recover, and you have to be able to hold your balance there. And so you really just have your hip and your torso to help you. So get in this half kneeling position, hands on your hips, nice and tall in your torso, and then you're just going to lift up that front leg and then balance on a single knee. Again, the goal is to be able to hold that for 30 seconds on each side. Then we can get a little more creative with some of our movement flows. So if you're in the Shutout Academy or Turning Pro, you'll know that some of the flows we use, and this is just one of them, the pigeon flow. But basically I'm in my modified pigeon position. I'm going to lift everything off the ground, my arms and my free leg. I'm going to come up, sweep out to the side, not putting that foot down. Once it gets in front of me, I'll sweep back, controlling all the way back to the starting position. So adding in some patterns like that are really going to help you nail your balance, not just from a standing position, but almost, to me, more importantly, from your knees when you're moving across the crease in your butterfly. And you can see from those drills that the balance you need as a goalie isn't the kind of balance that you get from standing on a stability ball or, you know, doing squats on a balance board. You know, it isn't that kind of bilateral type of balance. It's more of a single leg, you know, move into a position and then find your perfect point of balance. So I hope that kind of helps steer you in the right direction. I know there are probably a ton of other skills that you can work on, but these are just a few. So your hand-eye, your juggling off the wall, how can we make that more applicable? I gave you some ideas here. Working on your puck handling. You know, how can I get better at puck handling on the ice if I'm not really on the ice all that often? There's no reason you can't work on this in your basement or out in the garage. And then finally, balance, which gets missed a lot of the time, and then sometimes when it isn't missed, it's trained in the wrong way with, sort of more circus tricks. The balance we need is actually pretty simple. So even if you just spend 10 minutes a day working on, maybe you're going to work on a little bit of each of those for 10 minutes a day total. Or maybe on Mondays I'm going to work on my juggling. On Tuesdays, I'm going to work on my stick handling. On Wednesdays, I'm going to work on my balance. You know, maybe you split it up that way. It doesn't really matter. Developing a skill is just about practice. It's about deliberate practice, thinking about what you're doing, executing with as close to perfection as you can get, and really only having tolerance for perfect reps. So if you need to slow down or regress so that you can get those perfect reps, then go for it. Once you're executing quickly and with precision, then it's time, okay, now I need to expand my envelope. I need to increase the neural complexity here. So that is what I've got for you today. This is Maria from GoalieTrainingPro.com. Get out there and stop some pucks. Cheers.